Hi, this is a quick run through of one of our virtual patient cases for our Dynia project. This is an overview just to how to play a case, but it's also targeted at our reviewers who are giving us feedback on our virtual patient cases that have been designed for script concordance testing. The software is OpenLabyrinth, and I'll point out right now that you can get to the back to the server to restart any case or to look at other information just by clicking on the OpenLabyrinth icon on the right hand side here. So, virtual patient case, very simple and straightforward, just text and pictures and little avatars, etc. And then there are hyperlinks down in this area in the page, and these are the choices for how to navigate the case. So in this particular case example, we've got this gentleman, 38, is in for blood pressure review, and you're given some history, there's some questions, and you decide where to go next. Now the difference here between these cases and the standard sort of multiple choice type question is that any of these options are reasonable options, or at least that's how they've been planned. So this is not a correct answer and no, the rest are dumb. Any of these are reasonable choices, and in many of these cases in this particular style, the order in which you select things also matters. And there are directions at each stage as to what to do, but in this particular case, what do you want to do next? Pick as many of the following, but in order of importance. So you pick your most important ones first and then work your way through them. Click on any of these options that you would normally do in the real world, but don't just click on things just to see what happens. We want to avoid that. Don't make things which you go, you know what, in real life I would not make that choice. So in this particular case, which we've run a few times on our site visits, what might you do next? Well, you might do a hemoglobin A1C level, and in this particular case it doesn't actually give you what the result is. It just says if this comes back at less than 6.7%, how likely is this to change your treatment plans? We're just asking for a choice of, well, what do you think? And it's first impressions count, so yes, that might change my treatment plans. What else might you do? So you might do lipids on this chart again. If these come back normal, so this is not a guarantee, it's just if they do come back normal, how would that change your plans? Well, it might not. And maybe we would do, let's think, a random microalbumin, for example. And again, if that comes back normal, how likely is that to change your plans? When you've done all the tests that you want in that particular section, just click on the No More Tests and it takes you on to the next area. And so in this particular case, we've done with our initial investigations, and there's a little counter in the bottom here, the lab cost counter down here. We spent $34 so far, and ignore the little no here, it's just the number, $34 on our tests. So the more tests you do, the more that goes up, and it's just a little feedback or feedback option there. So his blood pressure is a little bit up. He's on an Allopril 5, so what would you do next for this chap if it was a real case? And again, any of these options are reasonable. Just pick the ones that you would use and in the order you might use them. So it's not on top of each other, just your order of preference, and don't bother with any of those that you wouldn't consider. So here we might increase his Allopril to 10, and then this next little bit here, we're just saying, okay, if his diastolic is currently 90, move the slider down to what you think that would reduce his blood pressure to. So if you think you might take it down to about 86 or so, you move it down there, and then how confident, how reliable is that medication? How confident that it would happen? So you might be very confident, you might pick a different one, neutral, just pick one of the options there. And then, okay, what other meds might you consider? This is not on top of, but say for instance, there was a reason why you couldn't use an Allopril 10, well, what else might you choose? You might change the Allopril to Ramipril. How much would you expect that to reduce it? You might reduce it by a little bit less, and be somewhat confident. And if there's any other options there, you pick them. And again, if you're done with all your choices, just click and move on. So you're seeing him now a month later, and here's his results. So this is when you get his real results. His blood pressure is down a wee bit. So what would you do now? So his lipids are not too bad. His lights and creatinine are pretty normal there, and you'll note that we don't give an interpretation, we just provide actual results. And then, so what might you do at this stage? You might so again, pick from this list here. Now, as somebody pointed out in our site visits, you might consider doing, they were saying that they would advise doing the weight reduction early on, before they even try the blood pressure pills. Fair enough. This is just a simple case to illustrate the navigation of the cases. It was kind of thrown together just to show the proof of concept. But in reviewing the real cases that we'll send you, if this is something where you're thinking, these are in the wrong order, please do tell us. Again, on the advising weight reduction, how likely is this to reduce his morbidity and mortality over the next 10 years? And very likely, although as one reviewer pointed out to us, is the difference between advising it and the actually reducing weight. And again, if you see issues like that within our questions, do feel free to point those out. So that's that choice. You might have, might add some lipid medication for him. How likely is this to help? And then so pick any of the others. We did leave on this particular one as like a other suggestion, and if you do have something else here, then maybe add it in here. So something else here. Just send that in. The system itself won't react to that. It's just a little comment that you've made to us, and that's useful. Again, how likely is that to work? It might be neutral or whatever. And then so that's it largely done. And then you finish off the case. If those are all your choices, just by clicking on the end of the case, and simply it gives us feedback. Thanks for playing, and that's the point at which we would take the results and feed them back to the group. So that's how we do that. If you want to reset and restart a case, just hit the reset button and it puts everything back to 0. But that's pretty much all you need to know.